Mm. Okay, right. Let's get down to brass tacks. New album. I listened to it. I liked it a lot. I thought it was very interesting. And I was wondering why you chose, well, you or the record company, why you chose "Run with the Boys" for the first single.
I guess that, well, I mean, presumably the record company thought it was catchiest, I guess. I don't know. We're not really doing a massive sort of single-led campaign. You know, the single and album come out on the same day. Suicide for singles market thing, but it's more about the album as a whole. But I mean, that song is kind of the one that refers to the bands I've been in and the lifestyle I've led for.
That's what I figured.
Decade plus.
And it's a kind of ironic comment in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, it kind of celebrates it at the same time as questioning it.
And sort of draws a line under it.
I guess so. Yeah. My own personal conclusion would be that you can definitely strike a balance and, you know, embrace both. As long as you're growing and still on a journey.
But now basically you're solo, and maybe sometimes you'll pick and choose projects to do with other people occasionally. Maybe get some of the old bands back together just for a short time, like you did this summer. Yeah,
that'd be a nice way to go.
In a way, I guess the new album's a lot more mature. You know, you're sort of like you're really doing things your own way, and you know, there's a lot of variety in there. It's quite a sophisticated album, and would you say that maybe being in bands has kind of held you back in certain ways?
It came to a point when being in a band became something of a comfort zone, I think. I didn't really realise it at the time, but I felt kind of trapped in a prison of my own design, really. Like, obviously, like sort of playing to a dwindling audience and trying to write hits. You know, that's where I never wanted to be. I don't know how I ended up there, and so, I mean, I had to stop doing that and have a clean break. And that's how I ended up here, writing a really sort of selfish album, you know, which to help me deal with the past, which, you know, really objective number one in terms of getting me to write was that, do you remember, it doesn't have to sell anything. It just has to be the honest. And,
with a band, there's always that pressure. You've got to,
especially if you're signed and everything already. And you know, I was kind of had the luxury of being free from all deals, and you know, I wasn't tied to anything. I just managed to get dropped by sort of wait to write new stuff until I was dropped from my last label.
Yeah, so it's like with bands, you've had different kinds of problems. Like maybe in a way, the Libertines are too successful, and that caused all sorts of problems. And with the Dirty Pretty Things, it kind of fizzled out a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but we kind of got a second album syndrome in a way. I think just the pressure of the first one, and you know, there's a load of different factors really to that.
Whatever you do, something seems to go wrong.
Yeah, that does happen a lot. Yeah, I do that.
Anyway, you're on your own now, so you've got complete kind of creative control, and you chose to write most of this on piano instead of guitar. What's going on there? Because basically, people think of you as a guitarist.
Yeah, well, just you fall into habit, so I do as a writer. And as soon as I pick up a guitar, you know, my hands naturally form the same sort of shapes. And with the piano, it's a whole different sort of landscape, really. If you don't play piano, which I don't, apart from, you know, the sort of classical six-finger guitarist vamping. Yeah, you just find yourself going in directions you wouldn't normally.
So it's just another way into originality, freshness.
Yeah, I think so.
So the next album will be written on a saxophone, is that right?
The French horn.
French horn.
Flugelhorn, isn't it?
Yeah, so you can just go through the whole orchestra and come up with new ideas all the time.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to do a covers album on a conch.
On a conch, yeah.
Thought,
I can imagine that, yeah. What does Pete think of this album? Has he actually given you any feedback?
I still haven't sent him it actually, but I played him a couple of the songs and he was, he related well to them.
What did he say about them?
Well, he liked them. Yeah, I mean, I only played him a couple, but yeah, it seemed to like him.
So how close are you guys now? Because you obviously you got back together for the summer, and I mean maybe because it's more limited, it's easier, you know, in a way.
Maybe.
You set limits on things.
We you know, we're both very different people, and but the people we are with each other hasn't really changed in all these years.
So it's a bit like going back to the guitar. Your hands take on certain shapes when you meet certain people again. Your sort of personality takes on certain shapes.
Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Mm. Right now, I heard you're married. You have a kid now. You're living in the country.
Well, none of those are true.
Really?
No, I'm not married. I'm going to have a baby in December, and I live in North London.
Mm-hmm.
I can't drive. The country would be rubbish.
Which part of North London?
Maswell Hill.
Oh, that's near my brother. About the album, can you tell me a little bit about how the songs got written? What did you start from? What was the starting line for this album?
I mean, this is the first album I've done that's just kind of introspective, rather than escapist, I guess, the way I've always written. Yeah, I realised I had a lot of things to work with. That's how it's all come about so quickly. You know, it was all written and recorded this year. Yeah, just dealing with personal things. We're taking out the guitars and things, and looking at more. I mean, stepping away from big loud guitars. It stops you hiding behind that, and also. Yeah.
So hiding behind guitars, what would you be hiding from? The audience or life itself? Or?
Well, yeah, both of those really. I mean, it wasn't always like that, but it kind of ended up like that. It just felt like a loud guitar was expected, along with a leather jacket and some whiskey and a cigarette. You know?
But you say like kind of guitar rock bands are a bit of an immature thing. It's a way of prolonging adolescence.
It did feel a bit like that for me. I wouldn't say that was true in everybody's case, but yeah, I mean, I was definitely stuck in a bit of a rut, which is why I had to end that kind of way of life. Hence, running with the boys.
Which song did you do first? Write first?
Well, I started writing "So Long, My Lover," and I wrote a sort of a very basic version of that last year. Basically, because I was playing gig in Scotland and I had to have something new. Otherwise, I might be lambasted. That was a great gig, and but yeah, so I had to write something. I had to have something new to play. So I pretty much started that on the bus, but then I put it away, and then that came out, and another song called what's it called? Run with the Boys. Yeah, I started those two last year, and then this year, but then I didn't do anything until April this year, and then I wrote everything.
Yeah, So Long My Lover's quite it's a little bit downbeat, isn't it? And then Run with the Boys is very upbeat. And, yeah. So you're sort of experimenting with shade and light there, and
I guess so.
Different directions.
Well, I mean, the album I wanted it to be an album as an album rather than a bunch of like two singles and a bunch of fillers. It's like so it does take on its own sort of conceptual shape about frivolity, finding love, enduring love, loss, and then finding love again. I mean, there is a sort of loose narrative there, and yeah, So Long Was My Love is just like sort of a pivotal ballad, really. Like, I'm always interested in what track number 7 is on an album. I thought that was a good number 7.
Is that your lucky number then?
Not really. I've always noticed on my favourite albums that always seems to be the number of the track, which is they kind of stand out, pivotal.
Yeah, they don't want to put it too early, otherwise people might miss it.
Yeah.
So you regard that as a standout track on this album?
For me, it's certainly from terms of where it was written from. That was the part which allows me to move on and closure and.
Yeah, well, it sounds like I mean, obviously the title "So Long My Lover" it's a goodbye song to somebody, and is that literally what it is?
Yeah. There have been quite a few people involved in.
But that could refer to a number of people, not just...
Yeah, well, that's the idea. It's kind of universal, and I don't want to write names and things in there. It's like
no, of course not.
Slightly unfair to people, but yeah. Also, it doesn't really make for good songs.
Can I just ask you a little bit about what you're doing in Japan this time? I mean, you got a tour in November, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, we might have one date here
Mm.
in November. That's a bit still on the table, apparently.
One possible date.
Yeah, I think the 28th. I think it's something to do with supporting the Manic Street Preachers.
Oh yeah, they're coming over, yeah.
Yeah, so if we do it, it'll be that. If I do it, I mean, it's not we anymore.
And this time you're just here for like a couple of days. With,
Yeah, literally just to impress.
Yeah.
And pretty much.
I heard you were going to do one sort of like short live set somewhere.
I'm sort of busking later for some fans at Tower Records. You know, it's
Tower Records.
It's not like a production sort of gig.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm going to just belt out a few tunes later on the acoustic.
Mm-hmm.
It's been 4 years.
Is that today?
Yeah.
It's tonight.
Yeah, about 7.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, it's just been a while since. It's been 4 years since I played there. Yeah.
Tower Records would be the one in Shibuya then, or?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just go through some of the other songs. Ode to a Girl. I quite like that one. That's the one that stuck first of all. You know, when I listened to the album. Can you tell me a bit about that? How did that get started, and what's it about?
That was that's the kind of excuse fatigue.
Mm.
How long does it take to get over jet lag generally?
Get over jet lag. Yeah, well, usually if you're going to Britain, it's easier.
Oh, is it?
Because the day just stretches. But if you're coming to Japan, then you can like miss a day and it doesn't add up. The hours don't add up anymore. So.
So on day 3, I'm going back tomorrow, and it seems.
Yeah. You just if you just come here for a short trip, you just stay on British time, and then when you go back, you'll be fine.
A lot of people have said that's they don't see it as optimistic, but no, it really is. It's if you can.
It's got both, hasn't it?
Yeah, it shows a recovery. If you can sing an ode to a girl, and obviously it's a new girl, then you're moving on, and it kind of explains the past, and excuses it, and and it's also with the baby in mind.
So it's sort of covering similar territory to "So Long My Lover," but maybe a little bit further on.
No. I mean, it's the whole "So Long My Lover" is like goodbye that way, and then the girl's hello that way.
Yeah, so it's sort of like it's the same narrative in a way.
Yeah, no, definitely. But I mean, there's a bit more of the story between this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's what was I going to say? Yeah, so we start always with Andrew Wyatt. Sorry, it's really great on the video. It was. He had just a musical phrase, and we built it up there, and I wrote the words. It just fell into place.
Who's been working with you on this album? And I mean, is it self-produced or?
No, I wish. No, that's a long way off before I can do that kind of thing. No, it's Leo Abrahams who's the producer, and he's worked with Brett Anderson before. He used to be the guitarist for Ed Harcourt.
What about the musicians? Is it?
Well, it's a lot of it's kind of in-house because just come over me. Like seriously, I just suddenly got an attack. I think it comes in waves, jet lag. So the musicians, all the strings and whatnot were provided by my missus's sisters, my missus and her sisters. So I mean.
What sort of musical background do they have? Because
they're all classical. They used to have a band called Dirty Pretty Strings, which is ironically coincidental. But they're in a band called the Langley Sisters actually, which is worth looking at. But they do strings professionally.
There's all these kind of like strange things in the mix. There's a bit of sounds like a gypsy tango sometimes, a bit of a polka, and there's all these little interesting musical ingredients.
Well, I do love all those rhythms. I always have to.
I was just wondering if you're originally you're of European extraction, aren't you? Your roots go back.
I don't know. I find out a different thing every year. Yeah, but
the name Barat, where does that hail from?
Well, I think it's predominantly French, but I couldn't tell you how far back or anything more than that.
But there's no sort of there's nothing feeding in from your roots into the music, or it's just.
Not really. Sorry, I have to give you boring answers.
No. I just want to nail these things down, yes or no, basically.
Okay, good.
See if there's anything there, Just,
I do have.
Probing's our job,
Yeah. So, No, I do have some foreign roots. I'm guessing just by looking in the mirror generally. but I'm not entirely sure where.
Mm. 5 more minutes. Oh, okay, yes, thank you, yes.
No, it's my fault for waffling about countryside and things, sorry. Yeah.
That's fine, no problem, yeah. Okay, also, what other music are you interested in at the moment? What sorts of things are influencing you? What are you listening to?
Well, just before I started making this record, I was kind of inspired, like, away from... I've always said the classics, like 60s, 70s, but since then I've been listening to Bonnie Prince Billy, I See a Darkness, Tom Waits' Rain Dogs, and Leonard Cohen, Greatest Hits, embarrassingly enough, but still they're great. And a tiny bit of Jeff Buckley actually, not too much, but a couple of playthroughs. If I'm in the right mood, that can be quite poignant.
So sort of like grist for the singer-songwriter mill, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
It seems like you're really going to define yourself as a solo artist.
Well, I mean, at the moment, that's what.
I mean, going by your intake and everything.
Yeah. My intake's definitely changed over the last few years.
But the thing that people always latch onto is that you were in the Libertines. Did that ever become like an albatross around your neck?
Not really, because I really choose to see it as a progressive thing. Like it's kind of come full circle since we did the gigs at Reading and Leeds. Yeah, so obviously Libertines aren't dead, so it's not like I'm sort of suffering under the weight of it all. Which I was for a while, I thought. But yeah, I feel much better and lighter now we've done that, and now we've got the option for the future, which is obviously yet unwritten. So that's from my documentary.
So you're talking about writing together again?
Maybe next year. Yeah, everyone's expressed a wish to do so.
But isn't that a problem for you as a trying to carve out a solo career? Because like if you keep dipping in and out of the Libertines again, people are going to. That's where the focus is going to be, and your solo career is going to get left in the shade a little bit. You know what I mean?
I don't know if that's strictly true, to be honest.
Do you think they have a symbiotic relationship? The Libertine thing helps the solo career and vice versa.
Possibly, I don't know. Is it confusing for people? Obviously, the last thing I do is compete with myself.
Well, it's not confusing people. It's just the way the media operates and the way publicity operates and the way the record business operates. It always follows the publicity, the story, the image.
I've not really thought it through that far. I just want to do what feels right at the time, really. And if it transpires that I can't, I can't feed myself or my as your unborn child, then maybe I will have to start playing the game a bit more. But right now, I just want to play this record, write this record, play this record, tour this record, and then see where the Libertines stand after that. I mean, I might want to do another one.
So have you been playing these songs anywhere already?
A couple of times.
Yeah, back in the UK.
Yeah.
Did some dates.
Yeah, just tiny little shows really. But it seems to be a good reaction. Especially Glastonbury was good actually.
So which songs does it come over exactly as you hear it on the record? Or?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do at the moment.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult because I'm kind of limited, especially like funds wise as well. I can only afford a 5-piece at the moment, so I can't get all the strings and bells and dancing girls. But yeah, on a 6-piece. But I'm just like playing some old songs, some new songs, and just keeping it.
Okay, but ask my final question because I'll be in the door in a minute. All right. Why do you think Libertines are such a big success, and why do you think Dirty Pretty Things were not a big success?
I'm guessing my most objective answer would be, I think people were attracted to the fact that Libertines was every man's band, really, and everyone was part of the story. There was no real privacy, and it was quite eventful. But also the audience felt like they were part of the band, which I think that was a great thing. Now I think Dirty Pretty Things, it kind of took that on, but without the story. So I guess people wanted the Libertine story. And so if you give them the music without the story, then the interest is going to dwindle. That's today's answer to that question.
So with the story, that sounds a bit like without Pete Doherty, though. because he, in a real sense, as far as the media is concerned, he's a bit of a story, isn't he? He's always, getting into trouble, and there's always something going on because.
Yeah,
because
but then you could argue then why didn't Pete's Baby Shambles project carry on with the same momentum the Libertines had? If Pete was the story, then that would make sense with it.
Yeah, so Baby Shambles
I think
followed the same trajectory as Dirty Pretty Things.
Yeah, I think the story would be what I'm talking about when I said people felt involved with the band, was probably our relationship.
So the borderless attitude to the fans, so just sort of being up close with the fans, that just sort of spread itself.
That's been maintained, but I mean the fans grew with the band. I mean the Libertines were quite a tiny band, but very significant to quite a few, and I know that has kind of snowballed since shit went down and it stopped being that, and they stopped functioning as a band, and and then that's why it was so good for Reading and Leeds to come back and play for all these people who were never aware of it, and it still mean as much and not disappoint. That was quite a big thing. But that's what the story is.
So to sum up, you would say the reason is because it was a story, and the story was the relationship with the fans. It was fresh, it was real, it was immediate, and later on that became difficult or impossible.
Obviously we had internal struggles in the band, but then the breaking up and then getting back together. There's a kind of soap opera to it in a way. But I don't know. I try not to think about it too much. Every time I do, my opinion changes. So.
Yeah, it's just maybe timing and just, luck and chance, all these elements which really can't be sort of theorised about too much, really come into play. Yeah, you just got to do what you do, and if you're lucky, you're lucky. If you aren't, you aren't. Yeah.
Basically, yeah. As long as you mean well, come from a place of love. Russell Brand says you'll be bulletproof.
Oh, wise words to end the interview on.
Bear that in mind, yeah.
Okay, we'll finish there then.
Cool. Well, I hope you got something.
Well, yeah, plenty to work with there. Don't worry, I've had much worse to deal with.
Thanks.
Well, cheers.